The gray Texas sky hung heavy with drizzle as 22-year-old Anna Reed hurried across cracked sidewalks, clutching her soaked backpack. The real weight she carried wasn't her textbooks. It was debt, rent overdue, hospital bills for her mother, and student loans piling like bricks on her chest. A senior nursing student and part-time diner waitress, Anna was exhausted, her dreams collapsing under numbers she couldn't pay. Her phone buzzed. "Miss Reed," a calm, commanding voice said. "This is Richard Hale. I'd like to meet with you this evening. It concerns your financial situation." Anna froze. "Who are you? How?" "I know enough," the man interrupted. "Meet me at Hale Manor, 7 o'clock sharp." The line went dead. She stared at her reflection in a rain puddle. Hale Manor? Everyone knew that name. The mansion on the hill belonged to Richard Hale, a 73-year-old widower whose empire spanned oil, shipping, and real estate. Few had ever seen him. Those who did spoke his name with a mix of awe and suspicion. That evening, Anna stood before iron gates taller than any building she'd ever entered. The driveway stretched endlessly to a mansion glowing through the mist. Inside, marble floors reflected crystal chandeliers. Portraits of long-dead ancestors stared down as if judging her presence. And then she saw him, Richard Hale, silver hair, tall frame, eyes like polished steel. Age had not softened him. "Miss Reed," he said evenly, "I know about your debts, your rent, your mother's hospital bills. I can erase them all." Anna's stomach twisted. "Why would you?" He leaned forward. "Because I want something in return. Marry me." Her breath caught. I don't understand." "This is not about romance," Richard said. "It's a contract. You'll be my companion for public appearances. In return, I'll pay your debts, your tuition, your mother's care. You will have financial freedom. I will have a wife." Anna stared, torn between disbelief and desperation. The image of her mother's frail hands and the eviction notice on her door flashed in her mind. "You don't need to love me," Richard said softly. "You only need to stand beside me." That night, rain lashed against her apartment window as she sat surrounded by bills. "Marry me," his words echoed. It was madness, but so was her situation. By morning, she hadn't slept. 2 days later, his voice returned on the phone. "My offer won't wait forever. I'll send a car at 6. At 6 sharp, a black sedan appeared outside her crumbling building. The ride was silent. Inside the manor again, Richard slid a folder toward her. A marriage agreement. Its terms were cold and precise. They'd live together but lead separate lives. No intimacy. No expectations beyond companionship. In exchange, her debts would vanish, and her mother's care would be covered in full. "Why me?" she asked in a trembling voice. "Because you have nothing to gain but survival," he replied. "I trust that more than ambition." Anna stared at the contract, tears blurring the ink. Then she picked up the pen and signed. "The ceremony will be in 1 week," Richard said quietly. "Courthouse. Discreet. Part 2, the contracted bride." 1 week later, under a gray sky and steady rain, Anna stood in a courthouse wearing a borrowed white dress. Richard stood beside her, elegant, unmoving. The vows were read like business terms. "Do you, Anna Reed, take Richard Hale?" Her throat burned. "I do." "So do I," he answered firmly. A simple gold ring slid onto her finger, sealing a life she barely understood. As they left, Richard offered his arm. "Welcome to your new life, Mrs. Hale." Hale Manor loomed ahead, its marble gleaming, its silence deafening. Servants lined up like statues. Anna's new room was vast, luxurious, cold, impersonal. One suitcase sat on the silk-draped bed. Dinner was silent except for the clink of silverware. The food was exquisite, but she could barely taste it. "You'll adjust," Richard said, cutting a steak neatly. "It's different," she murmured. Different isn't always bad. Days passed in ritual precision. Tutors arrived, voice coaches, etiquette trainers, wardrobe consultants. They corrected her speech, posture, even her smile. "You're to be seen, not questioned," one reminded. Richard observed from afar, saying only, "Presentation matters." Appearances shape perception. At week's end came her first public test, a gala hosted by his company. Cameras flashed as they stepped from the limousine. Whispers cut through the hum. She's so young. Gold digger. At dinner, a woman with diamond earrings leaned across the table. So, Anna, what do you do? Anna's pulse pounded. I'm finishing nursing school, she said evenly. And I work at a diner. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work. A brief silence. Then, unexpectedly, one guest chuckled. Honesty. Refreshing. That night, in the car, Anna whispered, Did I embarrass you? Richard looked at her. You handled yourself better than most who've sat at that table. For the first time, something inside her softened. But the nights were long. The house too still. She'd wander through halls lined with portraits and wonder where she belonged. One evening, she found Richard on the balcony, staring at the gardens. His face looked older in the moonlight. You should rest, she said. I built everything I have from nothing, he murmured. And yet, it's strange how empty success feels when there's no one to share it. For the first time, he didn't sound like a tycoon, but a lonely man. She hesitated. I don't know if I can be what you expect. He looked at her, weary yet sincere. Just be honest. That's all I ask. Then, quietly, he slipped off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. No words, no conditions, just warmth. That night, Anna lay awake, haunted by the memory of that gesture. For weeks she'd told herself this was survival. But something inside her was changing, and she was afraid of what it meant. Her feelings deepened as they faced more galas and dinners together. Whispers followed her everywhere. But Richard's steady presence silenced most of them. Then came the night she found him collapsed in his study, pale and gasping. Panic seized her as she knelt beside him. You need help, she cried. He managed a faint smile. Doctors can't fix age, Anna. It's the one thing I can't buy my way out of. Her heart broke. She sat beside his bed until dawn, realizing for the first time she feared losing him. Not the security he gave, but him. At a shareholder banquet days later, a man mocked Richard's child bride. Anna stood before she could think. You may see me as an outsider, she said, but I've seen Richard not as a name or bank account, but as a man who gives more than anyone here. If that's weakness, then maybe strength isn't what I thought it was. Silence followed. Even Richard seemed stunned, then proud. On the drive home, he said softly, You reminded them I'm not invincible, and reminded me I don't have to be. But peace was short-lived. Soon, rumors spread faster than ever. Headlines calling her opportunist bride. Caretaker turned millionaire's wife. Inside the manor, tension cracked the walls. Richard's nephew Daniel accused her of manipulating his uncle. You've made the family a laughingstock, Daniel shouted. Step down before you destroy everything. Anna overheard every word. That night, she told Richard tearfully, Maybe I shouldn't have agreed to this. Don't you dare blame yourself, he said, anger flashing in his voice. You've shown more honor than any of them. But the guilt consumed her. Before dawn, she left a note, I'm sorry. Then she packed her small suitcase and disappeared into the rain. The rain came harder the night Anna left. Her single suitcase thudded into the back seat of a cab, her heart heavier than anything she carried. She didn't look back at the mansion as its lights faded into the storm. She found a small apartment above a laundromat 2 towns over. It smelled of detergent and loneliness. Days blurred into one another. Nursing classes by morning, diner shifts by night. Her marriage license lay folded inside her Bible, a ghost she couldn't face. She didn't touch the money Richard had given her. She couldn't. Every dollar felt like a memory. Months passed. One evening, she found a newspaper headline while cleaning tables. Richard Hale steps down amid health decline. Her chest tightened. The article mentioned serious complications and withdrawal from public life. She set down the tray, hands trembling. He was sick, and she had left him alone. That night, she packed again. When she reached Hale Manor, the gates were half open, the guards gone. The once glowing house looked dim, curtains drawn. Inside, a nurse recognized her instantly. He's been asking for you, the woman whispered. Anna entered the study. Richard sat by the window, thinner, paler, but when his eyes lifted to hers, a faint spark returned. "I knew you'd come back," he said softly. Tears slipped down her face. "I shouldn't have left." He smiled faintly. "Maybe you needed to. Sometimes leaving shows us who we are." She dropped to her knees beside his chair. "I didn't want your money. I just didn't know if I belonged." He reached for her trembling hand. "You belonged the day you walked through that door, Anna. I just didn't know how to tell you." The storm outside quieted, and for the first time in months, the house felt alive again. A new beginning. Anna stayed, not as a contract bride, but as a caretaker, a partner, and, slowly, something more. Richard's recovery was slow, but steady. Each morning, she brought him tea and read aloud by the fire. In the evenings, they'd walk the gardens, her hand tucked in his. He'd talk about his childhood, his late wife, his regrets. "You know," he said once, "I used to think love was a transaction, something you earned or bargained for. But you gave it freely. And you gave me a reason to stand tall," she whispered. Their world shrank to small, perfect moments, shared laughter, soft music, quiet understanding. One night, sitting under the oak in the garden, he said, "When I die, everything I own will fade. But what we built here, between two people who shouldn't have crossed paths, that's what I'll take with me." Anna blinked away tears. "Don't talk like that." He smiled gently. "Then promise me something. Don't mourn me like a widow. Live. Love again. You got years I never will." She promised. The end of winter. Winter came sharp and bitter. Richard grew weaker by the day, his breath thin and uneven. Anna refused to leave his side. One night he stirred awake and whispered, "Anna, I want to marry you again." She frowned, confused. "We already are." "No," he said with a faint smile. "That was a contract. This time, it'll be for love." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Then I say yes." A few hours later, in the glow of the study's fire, a priest from town arrived. Richard lay in bed, and his hand in his. No guests, no cameras, just them. "I, Richard Hale," he said, voice trembling. "Take you, Anna, not for gain, not for convenience, but for love." "And I take you," she whispered, "for the man you are, not the name, not the wealth, just you," when he slipped the same gold ring back on her finger. She could barely see through her tears. He died peacefully 2 weeks later, her hand still in his. The legacy, the will surprised everyone. Richard had left his entire fortune, not to his board or his family, but to a foundation Anna would lead. The Hale Hope Fund, dedicated to scholarships and hospitals for those in need. At the press conference, reporters shouted questions. "Mrs. Hale, did you expect this inheritance?" Anna faced the cameras calmly. "No, but I intend to honor it exactly as he wished, by helping those who never got a second chance." Her voice carried the same quiet strength that had once caught Richard's attention across that marble hall. The crowd fell silent. Later that night, she walked alone through the empty mansion. The rain had stopped, moonlight spilling through the windows. In his study, the fire flickered faintly. On the desk, she found an envelope addressed in Richard's handwriting. "Anna, you gave me peace in a world built on noise. You reminded me what it meant to feel human again. If you're reading this, I hope you found your freedom. Not from poverty, but from fear. Don't live small. Live as if love were never a bargain, because with you it never was. Richard." She pressed a letter to her heart and whispered, "Thank you." 1 year later, the foundation headquarters opened with fanfare, but Anna didn't stay for long. She moved to a small town near the coast, where she continued her nursing work quietly. Her gold ring never left her finger. Sometimes, when patients asked if she was married, she smiled softly and said, "Once, to a man who taught me that love doesn't always come the way you expect, but it changes you all the same." Every spring, she visited his grave beneath the old oak tree. The marble plaque read simply, "Richard Hale, builder, dreamer, husband." She would kneel, brush the leaves away, and whisper, "We did it, Richard. The hospitals are open. The fund is growing. You kept your promise, and I kept mine. Then she'd rise, sunlight breaking through the branches, and walk back toward the life they built from a contract that became something far greater, something real. Final lines. In the end, she realized what he had meant the night they first met. Appearances shape perception, but love, quiet, honest, undeserved, shapes the soul. And that, she knew, was worth more than any fortune ever could be.